Welcome back to the Literary Apothecary. My name is Kate and I'm here today to talk about Winds of Strife by Uri Gutman. This is book 1 in the Dauntless Night series. If this title sounds familiar to you, a lot of people a couple years ago read this on BookTube and absolutely loved it. Rave reviews from just about everyone that I saw. This is a fantasy, maybe high fantasy book, and it was next up on my Kindle, so I had to dive in. My general thoughts about this book was that reading it was more of an experience than anything, and I loved all of the world building that we had in this book and the unique magic system that was based on emotions. I was instantly sucked in by that prologue too. So a spoiler-free summary of what this book is all about. They burned me and mine. I'm not done until I burn them and theirs in return. And that was a little quote from the book. Witch hunts have plagued the kingdom of Olianth for decades. Thousands were slain due to the king's paranoia of women who practice senspiritic magic. No more. Nye and his companions have seen enough of murder and misogyny. 15 years have passed since he joined the witch hunters, and now, at long last, an opportunity to destroy them from the inside reveals itself. An opportunity to overthrow the king and end his reign of cruelty. But 15 years of pretense have taken a toll. The strive for vengeance has steered Nye toward a path of violence and villainy. His hands are stained by the blood of countless innocents, his heart is scorched by grief, and his sanity hangs by a thread. Even if he can kill the king and see this revolution through, it may not suffice to purge the voices from his head. So let's talk about these categories. Our characters, I liked our characters, but there were so many different points of views, and they were constantly shifting that along with the events of the book, it was hard to know which ones we were actually supposed to sympathize with and stand up behind. Our atmosphere and our setting, I loved our atmosphere and setting in this book. I thought that Gutman did a fantastic job setting the atmosphere and showing the different settings in his world. Writing style, for the most part, I enjoyed this book. However, my biggest gripe is, yes, the shifting of points of view, like I mentioned earlier. It was so hard for me to keep track of who I was supposed to sympathize with and when, because A, our points of views were shifting, but we also had some morally gray characters that were thrown in the limelight of these main character energies, so it was just hard to know who to sympathize with. Plot. The plot was relatively easy to follow. There were a few times where I felt lost, but that may have been because the story was shifting and I didn't know it until after it happened. Intrigue, I was always intrigued and interested. Even though I didn't always know who I was supposed to, quote, root for, I was always interested and intrigued, and I had to keep reading to see what happened. A logic, again, the shifting point of views, it was hard to keep track of everything, which then made the logic a bit harder to understand at times. And enjoyment. For the most part, I truly enjoyed this book, and I will likely continue this series once I get a little bit more time for reading and get caught up on some other series. This is definitely one series I want to continue and see where this develops. If you have read Winds of Strife before, let me know in the comments below. What did you think of it? Were you confused like I was, or were you there for the whole thing? As always, keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.